July 5th, 2022. Call to order the roll call. I think you did the roll call for the water meeting. We're all present with Mr. Geiger on microphone. The Pledge of Allegiance. Ralph, would you please lead us in the pledge? And we have our flag.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for coming this evening. The consent agenda. Items 1 and 2, acceptance into the public record of the June 2022 paid bills. And item number 2, acceptance of the cash receipts and disbursements report for May of 2022. Are there any questions over either of these documents or what they contain?
I was just going to ask them.
Yeah, I have one on my desk. It's probably. Why don't we hold on item number 2? Not everyone has received them. So we're looking at item number 1, the June 2022 paid bills. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, would accept the motion to approve item number 1 on the agenda.
I so move.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded by unanimous vote. Peter, would you like to call for a yes vote and a no vote, please? And then we'll go to Mr. Geiger.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Councilperson Geiger, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 1 is approved. Item number 2 will postpone to a future meeting. Call to the public. Have we received any written comments of people who would like to speak? Call to the public. We have 2 of them here. One of them is with regards to item number 3. Mrs. Mattis, would you prefer to wait until, well, we are at item number 3. Okay. Wendy Mattis, please. You might come right here.
Hi, I'm Wendy Mattis. I'm a Carefree resident. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. In my opinion, the current mayor and town council have failed us when it comes to the preservation of open space. Despite our own vice mayor sitting on the board of the Desert Foothills Land Trust, our incumbents have done nothing to preserve open space for Carefree. They have left us and future generations a legacy that includes a Hampton Inn and plans for more development. We are told that the town has set aside 40 acres north of town for open space. We ask, where is it? Can we go hiking or bike riding there? We're told it's in the Highlands, and by the way, it's inaccessible. We have to visit Scottsdale's open space preserves or Cave Creeks if we want to hike or bike in nature. Since 2013, the sole focus of our current politicians has been on development. It seems development at all costs and to the exclusion of just about everything else that matters to Carefree residents. Previous mayors and town councils placed a priority on open space preservation. We see in the 2030 general plan, an open space study group identified the 45-acre parcel on Cave Creek Road as one of the higher priorities for purchase by the town to preserve for open space. The chapter on open space in this general plan also states that, quote, open space preservation contributes to the social, economic, and environmental well-being of the town. Furthermore, open space protects the natural flora and fauna of the Upper Sonoran Desert, thereby preserving one of the foremost characteristics of the town. We want this last big remaining parcel of land to be preserved by Carefree for open space. We don't want to see another housing development, another hotel, another resort, apartments, retail space, or restaurants. The Phoenix metro area is one of the most sprawling in the US. There's development as far as the eye can see. Carefree needs an open space preserve, which will be left in as pristine a state as possible to maintain for this generation and for future generations a nearby natural desert refuge from the rigors of urban sprawl. What is Carefree's vision for preservation? Will your legacy be more than Hampton Inn and more development, or will you actually do something to preserve the little remaining open space in our town before it's too late? Many residents are willing, ready, and able to dive in and work to help save this land. What will you, as our mayor and council, do to help us? Time is of the essence. We know this land is up for auction in just a few weeks. In closing, I will quote the famed environmentalist Bobby Dionne, who in 1968 said, "In the end, we will conserve only what we love." Thank you.
Thank you. I believe this is Diane Roth is the next person, please.
Thank you, Mayor, Town Council. I am Wong. I'm a resident of Carefree. I'm reading for Cynthia Bergen, a fellow resident. And as a concerned full-time resident of Carefree, I wish to express my thoughts related to the upcoming public auction of 47.815 acres of land located in 8th Road and Stagecoach, just east of Mule Train Road. Land sale number 53-122339. As mentioned and discussed by Steve Kwotek, Economic Development Director of the Town of Carefree at the Carefree Revitalization Meeting, Tuesday, June 28th. This parcel of native land will be auctioned to the highest bidder July 27, 2022. It is my understanding that there are 2 developers interested in bidding on this property. Neither of these developers is known for high quality developments. In fact, one is known for building unique high-rise housing, resulting in high density, something I'm sure not interested in looking at or living with. If this parcel is developed into high density residential housing, here are the concerns. Water. We are already at a critical point with our water supply, as you just discussed. And the drought only amplifies the situation. Our water sources are dwindling with concerns of rationing. Granted, this is not only a local problem, but adding to the growing list of developments requiring water resources won't help the overall problem. Plus, the Hampton Inn proposed boutique resort slated for Tom Darlington and Carefree Highway will add to the overall water requirement. Lack of infrastructure and or aging infrastructure to support development of this 48-acre parcel of land if it became residential, sewer, water, electrical, etc., all aging. Traffic, the proposal to reduce Tom Darlington from 4-lane road to 2-lane road for safety's sake, then add bike lanes and pedestrian walkways and propose traffic circle makes no sense. Adding density will only increase the usage of our local roads, which will create a bottleneck to frustrate those coming to visit. We want to welcome people to your town, opening them up and navigating with ease with help. Ability of local merchants to support. Since Bosch's is only grocery store in Carefree, is it positioned to handle the influx of many new residents? It can barely keep up now. Favored alternative plan. What happened to the earlier proposal that the town of Carefree purchases a parcel of land noted above and created open space concept for the Carefree residents and visitors to enjoy? Keep the desert vegetation, create walkways, hiking trails, educational venues, public space where all can learn and play. That would be positive and appreciable investment in Carefree. Keep the native land native and invite others to enjoy and appreciate the unique beauty of the Sonora Desert right here in Carefree. I understand the importance of economic development, building a successful tax base, but money is not the only factor that creates success. Carefree has many balls in the air right now, with redevelopment of the city core, securing needed emergency services, expanding the water services to the west, selling and developing the last existing parcels of land belonging to Carefree, changing existing traffic patterns, hiring consultants, paying down excessive debt, and more. I believe our leadership, the mayor and town council, has forgotten to include one very important piece that makes Carefree successful, and the homeowners and residents that call Carefree their home. The people that regularly frequent local residents and shop locally. Bosch's, Ace, Lowe's. And I beg you to slow down and prioritize, and don't forget those of us who do live here all year round. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie Barber.
The opportunity to speak to you and Bill today. I would like to understand why Carefree's general plan is not on the ballot this August. So Arizona law states that a general plan is effective for up to 10 years from the date the plan was initially adopted. Carefree's general plan was adopted over 10 years ago on May 1st, 2012. The law goes on to state that on or before the 10th anniversary of the plan's most recent adoption, the governing body has to re-adopt the existing plan or adopt a new general plan. And I don't believe we've done either. The purpose of the general plan is to establish an intent and direction for the future growth and character of our community. The town council has seemingly been taking Carefree in a different direction than what our current Carefree or our current general plan is saying that we should be going in. Mr. Prokopek, the Carefree's economic development manager, was hired in early 2020. And by December 2020, the town council voted unanimously to adopt an economic development plan. That economic development plan includes a resort on the corner of Carefree Highway and Tom Darlington. It's a development that's not supported by our current general plan. With all the years of experience sitting on the council, I do believe you all knew that a general plan should have been on the ballot this August, and that a resort should have had an opportunity for a resident vote. Instead, it does feel that you bypassed a resident vote and you unanimously approved a special amendment to our general plan to push through this resort development. The council seems to have put the cart before the horse. When Mr. Prokopek was hired, and I think it was a good hire, his first priority, however, should have been to revise the general plan and prepare it for a resident vote. Once the general plan was ratified by residents, then and only then should we have begun working on an economic development plan. That would have absolutely assured residents understood, were educated, and supported on the direction that you seem to be taking our town. My biggest concern is that that resident vote was avoided on purpose. And I am concerned that you don't feel that you perhaps would have the support to move forward with a general plan that was accommodating significant changes to our development. And one of the reasons I feel that way is the overwhelmingly negative reaction to the Hampton Inn makes it pretty clear that the development plans are not universally supported by the residents in Carefree right now. And as Ms. Mattis said, our 2012 town council seemed to really understand what was important and made Carefree special. They summarized it in one sentence, and that was open space preservation contributes to the social, economic, and environmental well-being of our town. The 2022 council cannot unilaterally change our general plan without the approval of residents. Arizona law guarantees that residents have a right to decide the future direction and character of our town. By not placing a revised general plan on the ballot this August, I feel that you have intentionally denied every Carefree resident our rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I believe it's, hey, Karen,
Over here. Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that.
if I might ask you, please come to the podium with the microphone.
I'm sorry.
I'm Ava Kernan. I live at Double Gate Condo. I don't have a lot to say. A lot has been said. The one concern I have, and I'm going to keep it very simple, is what is a done deal? Do we have a lot of these ideas that we've talked about and shared about? Is it something that's done and cannot be changed at all, no matter how many of us would rather not have a lot of these things go through? I'm very concerned with the one lane on Town Darlington, because I live in condos, right across there. We have an entrance and an exit. And my concern is getting in and out of there and with one lane. And I'm concerned about the fire department getting in and out with the fire trucks with one lane on each side. I don't know why we need it. It's not like we have this great city that it is a small community. And we're making it like it's a huge community. And we need all this exit and change to it. And I've lived here for about 20 years now. And I love the community. It's a treasure to me. And to keep saying we have to update the town, we have to update this. And then somebody was here recently or last month who said that we should take out all the trees and the bushes that are in the center meeting. And I thought, well, that's what makes Carefree attractive. And we used to have, that Halloween event. And we used to have the Christmas event. We used to have all these events. And now we no longer have them. And people aren't really going to come out. Sure, they'll come and shop here. It's not like we have a main resort up here people are going to come up to. And as far as like we have no famous museum, it's not like Cape Creek, which is definitely a place that people come because it's a cowboy town. So I think the idea is to keep it simple. And my concern is how many decisions can be made and then we'll be surprised when we see them implemented. And I want to know what's going to be decided. And I don't want you 6 or 7 to decide what's going to be decided. And then we'll find out 6 months from now that this has been done or that's been done. So that's my concern. I want you to be honest and I want you to be and speak up and say what's going on. So we're not surprised that all of a sudden we have these new changes and none of us really understood the changes or what was going on. And you're all professional people. You're sitting on a board that governs this town. And I think it should be well governed. So people don't have to come up and say they're concerned about this or that. And I hear it from everyone. I volunteer at the library here and I've done it for years. I hear people that are Carefree residents that are very confused about what is going on. So that's my comment. So I thank you for serving. I think, it's a great thing to do, but I think, and I think it's for your pride in the community too. And a lot of money's been spent, a lot of these surveys and finding out what to do with this and that. But I think it's important that you share with the community. And I think there should be an advisory committee, maybe 6, 8 of us, that come and can participate more with the board and help like a public advisory for Carefree residents. And maybe that would be an ongoing thing that could explain to people what was going on. So I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you. I might ask a question of Councilwoman Croyer and Town Administrator Mr. Neese. What would you estimate the ratio of people who live in proximity to the town crossing either Tom Darlington or Cave Creek Road and saying it is dangerous and that you have to do something about those intersections is and where the crosswalks are? I would just ask for you, of the last 2 to 3 years, what percent of people have demanded that you do something and what percent of people have said, keep it as is?
I think there's always been a concern about crossing Cave Creek Road and Tom Darlington to get into town. People's speed, there's no refuge area, and it was getting pretty dangerous. So we did hire a traffic consultant. They came in, they said, no. I think one of the things to understand is we're not making all of Tom Darlington one lane or two lanes. We're not making all of Cave Creek Road. We're only making that section that's right at the town core. And we've put in new crosswalks. They're not finished yet. We're still waiting for some equipment. But we now have a refuge area on Hum and Cave Creek Road, so that if you can't make it all the way across, you can stop in the middle and feel safe. It was so dangerous for a while that, and there was so much concern that we actually were going to have Gary walk back and forth about 20 times a day just to see how often you could do it without getting blown down. But seriously, it's been a real problem, and now we're close to getting it solved. And again, we're not making all of Cave Creek Road and all of Tom Darlington 2 lanes.
Mayor and members, council, to that very point, it's important to note, and to the last speaker's point, nothing has been decided. And to the credit of Stacy and Steve, we've been going out into the community to ask residents what they desire and raising the concerns that other residents have brought to us. We don't sit in the back room and think about different things that don't align with what our residents want. History will tell you, and you've sat here in front of many other neighborhoods that front onto the town center, them raising questions to you about traffic speeds and the amount of asphalt that needs to be crossed and to make those crosswalks safe. We would not spend our precious resources, our funds, to address this issue if it was not an issue. And so we're trying to think out of the box. And in doing so, the idea of reducing that amount of asphalt to reduce the traffic speed is one of the possible solutions as conveyed by traffic engineers. So we have the traffic engineers that are evaluating this as part of the revitalization plan to look at the connectivity into the town center. But bottom line, nothing has been decided. And we have in the past heard from many of the associations around the town center about how to improve the connectivity into the town center. And I must point out that Tranquil Preserve at Tranquil Trail, we went around with them on proposing a new crosswalk. And we just cannot do a mid-block crosswalk with the traffic speeds out there and the amount of asphalt one has to cross. It would not be safe to just plainly paint the street and call it a day. The standards today are a lot higher because of lawsuits. And so we have to apply those standards today. And so we have hired traffic engineers to evaluate this. One of the thoughts was a 4-way stop there to ensure that it was not a mid-block crosswalk. That was a solution that we worked out with that HOA there. And then they came back at the 11th hour, and that was going to be done with the pavement project that was recently finished. We still have to do the permanent striping out there, but they came back and said, no, we have some residents here that are concerned about the noise associated with that 4-way stop. So what did? We listened to the residents again, and we removed that from the plan. One of the elements that that neighborhood has suggested is a roundabout there. Now, roundabouts help to blend the competing issues, the traffic that drives along Cave Creek Road, the speed of the traffic, and the crossing of a large amount of asphalt, and also aesthetical consideration as you enter into the town center, a sense of arrival. So there's things there that are positive about that. But as you hear tonight, there's some residents that might be concerned about a roundabout. These are all compromises. These are all things that we're having in these discussions in a public forum so that we can cultivate ideas. Not everybody's going to be happy with the solution, but that doesn't mean there's backroom deals. We're trying to cultivate that. And once again, that's going back to Steve and Stacy and going out and meeting with the neighborhoods and having these public meetings so that when an idea is presented in front of the council, hopefully we have some buy-in from the community, but we're far from making any decisions.
I just would like to add to Mrs. McKinnon, we don't make any backroom decisions. Truly, every decision we make is done in a public forum. And it's all on the website and it's all in the communications that we send out. And if you follow what we do, you'll find everything is out there in the open. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for raising the point, and thank you for the responses. We have one additional one, I believe it's Mr. Tom Rad, who is representing Deborah Morrow. Mr. Rad, you might come forward, please.
Good evening. I have some copies here for the council members. I'll give them to your secretary. I'm representing Debbie Morrow, who lives at Bloody Basin and the 37081 Bloody Basin Road. So this will be really short here. This is just a formal statement to put it on the record here, that street now has become not what it's supposed to be, according to the general plan. I'm new to this area, so I've read about the information and looked over your website quite a bit. So on their sheets, there's some information that I presented to you, some ideas, some things. I ask that your consideration of these things works. Thank you. If you need to contact me, the information is on there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, now let's move on to item number 4, current events. Do any of the council members have any current events or other areas of interest that it might be appropriate?
I actually do. I wanted to take a moment and introduce a couple of people that are here tonight and ask one to come forward. I was recently asked by the Cave Creek Unified School District Superintendent, Dr. Court Monroe, to sit on the committee to hire the new head football coach of Cactus Shadows High School. And it was a responsibility that I took very seriously because I've got a very extensive sports background, years and years, and I'm a champion for young people. And I believe that a position such as a coach it has such a lifelong influence on our young people and our future leaders. And I wanted to take a moment and introduce the two most important people in the room here tonight, Principal Sarah Barella from Cactus Shadows High School and new head football coach, Chris Dixon. Coach Dixon, if you would come up and just introduce yourself. And it's more of what they represent in educating our future leaders and why it's such an important role. And Coach Dixon is also a business member, a business owner here in the Desert Foothills. He's raising his family here, so he is a part of our community. Coach Dixon.
Hi, how's everybody doing? A little attention here tonight. I want to see a couple of smiles. I know y'all going through a lot. You know, I didn't know all the development stuff going on, but I got to clear this. Chris Dixon, I'm the new game football coach. I moved here last summer. I've been coming back and forth for the last 3 years from Billings, Montana. So I know a little bit about the small community atmosphere. I wanted to come over here after being invited because I know Cave Creek itself is a small part of our high school. I know we have about 25 to sometimes 4,000 students, and a little bit of it comes from this area. But I wanted you to know as a football coach that we are not going to forget about this part of the town. Everything we do, we represent Cave Creek area.
Excuse me, sir, we're Carefree.
Or Carefree, sorry, but the Cave Creek and General area, sorry about that. But we wanted the Carefree area to be known as a big part of everything we do. And so I wanted to present myself, but also present opportunities that anything we can do as a football program to come over and help this area, because our students do go and live in this area, that we can come over and help out, become a major part of this area, along with Scottsdale, along with Cave Creek, and all of those areas. It's a little intense tonight, so I sort of feel a little fun. So I'm willing to answer any questions they might have as well, so.
Are we gonna have a winning team this year?
All right, so let me, I've been asked that question about a trillion times. I got the job 4 weeks ago. So I'm gonna put the best product on the field we can this year. Give me 2 years, I got you. Hopefully I'm standing in this room 2 years from now. You're really smiling. So
Well, welcome.
give me a little time.
Well, Coach Dixon, and he's so non-assuming. He comes to us from the Arizona Rattlers. He was the quarterbacks and running backs coach for the Rattlers. As you know, that's our local arena football team here in Arizona. And he's arguably the greatest quarterback that's ever played arena football. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's very well known. He's joining the faculty here at the high school. And as I said, he's becoming a familiar face here in the community. His wife owns a business here, and he's raising his children here. So, and
And I
that's,
think that's, sorry.
go ahead.
That's the major piece for me. My family is in this community. And I think one thing, me as a football coach, I think we can keep more of our kids in our community, out of our community school. I think that's one thing that I want to change the atmosphere about, is getting our kids to want to stay home and build this home. Like, I know some of you are going through trying to protect your home today. I want to keep our kids home and have them staying at home at our local high school, where they should go, where they should want to represent us as a community and want to be home and build it. So if you ask me for a winning team, tell everybody to stay home. We'll have a winning team that way. So that's the other thing I wanted to present to you guys, is we need your help in the wanting to keep your children and grandchildren, their children here. We want to build this community in the direction that it should be.
Thank you. And as we look at the long-term demographics of Carefree, one of the things we notice is a rise in families, particularly with young children. You look at the numbers, why it's coming up, because it is not that far away from major metropolitan areas, and it is an excellent place to live. I mean, a number of us go on Dr. Seuss Day, and we read to the first graders, third graders, fourth graders, how the tiger got its stripes and those kinds of things. And I'll ask, how many of you are from Carefree? And it is not unusual in the class to get 40% of the kids are from Carefree. So it's something that's growing, and I echo your words, and I appreciate your words, and thank you for coming. And I look forward to you helping us build outstanding young adults.
No problem. I think I'm like the rest of y'all. We all have a last name, and we try to build a legacy. Let's keep building that legacy, just like y'all trying to build.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Anything further? Any upcoming events, something like that? Hearing none. Go on to item number 5, and this is a public hearing. Discussion and possible action to approve resolution 2022-14, vacating positions of a vehicular non-access easement, otherwise known as the VNAE, for lot 6 and 9 of the Nighthawk on Black Mountain subdivision, and abandoning the existing access and utility easements shared between these lots. Mrs. Bridge Stensack, would you please take us through this? please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of Town Council. First, I'd like to say go Falcons. This sounds like a somewhat complicated case, the title itself, but it actually is pretty straightforward. In essence, it's really little to no impact to the neighbors and to our community at large. And at its heart, it basically allows for greater flexibility for 2 property owners to develop their lots. So with that said, I'm sure you're all here familiar with where Nighthawk on Black Mountain is. Basically, it's surrounded by Nevermind Trail. The one home you can see in its northwest corner, that was a Gary Jones designed and built home. But as we've seen in the economy and the housing market, I think that we're starting to see some of our property and our land becoming desirable and looking forward to development. In your report, you probably read that initially there was a different plat versus what is shown here. And it had access easements to lots 6 and 9, which actually traversed across lots 3 and 5 as well. That was replatted as well, and as the existing plat is showing today, it eliminated that easement that went between those lots with the good idea to minimize disturbance on areas that are pretty steep. As you know, this is kind of at our foothills of Black Mountain itself. So an access easement, as well as including utilities, was proposed off of Nevermind Trail between the lots 6 and 9. So what we're looking at today is to, and I'm sorry, let me explain a little bit further. Not only do we have the access easement that comes off the Nevermind Trail for utilities, there are restrictions which are called vehicular non-access easements, which basically tries to insulate a subdivision so that you only have one traffic point in and out of the subdivision. In this case, you can see there's a central roadway that goes into the development. A vehicular non-access easement means that, just as it sounds, vehicles cannot cross that. But as it came forward through with the applicant, basically owner of lot 9 and his representative, they were looking to see if there could be a little bit more flexibility other than sharing an access easement, which potentially could have additional disturbance if you have one point of access off the street and then 2 diverging driveways that come into the lots. So with that said, these are sort of very engineered diagrams, but what they're trying to represent and show to you is that lot 9, who is ready to move forward with his development, is looking at locating a driveway, and you can see where there's that hash mark is they're looking to locate it somewhere within the vicinity of that graphic. Because they're in their design stage, they don't know finitely exactly where that driveway is going to be, but it's going to be somewhat in that area. Lot 6 is a recent buyer of this lot, and so without any plans to develop at the moment, they were looking for a little bit more flexibility as they don't have designs in mind at this case. What's important about how we're abandoning these access easements into the vehicular non-access easements is that once there are designs in place, they go through our processes. Each of these lots will go through our mountainside process. When they get their building permits, they will have to come back and rededicate and close these access easements so that there's only access at the driveway points. So that's really what the exhibit B on the left side of the screen is representing. The other 2 are the original access easement between the 2 lots, as well as the utility easement that APS does occupy. They were very concerned about eliminating that point of service with the understanding of being sure that both lots 6 and 9 would be served from Nevermind Trail. And so as you've seen further in the report, there's some conditions that speak to that. But the most important thing then to the town was the fact that you can see that over time, because there are utilities in the central easement between lot 6 and 9, that there has been disturbance to that location. And so the idea was with the traffic statement information as well as staff's concern was the addition of 2 access points on the Nevermind Trail. There was an objection to, but maintaining that 3rd one was an issue. And so we've come together and agreed again through the conditions that once lot 9 and 6 develop, that they've agreed to revegetate that area that's been disturbed between them. So I won't go through all of these conditions of approval. You've seen them in your report. But again, to highlight the most important parts of it is that there will be a rededication of the vehicular non-access easement so that there will only be one driveway access point onto Nevermind Trail for each of those 2 lots. Utilities will eventually be removed from those lots. There'll be no reason for any APS vehicle to access or traverse onto that property for any reason. And that area that has been disturbed will be revegetated. This did go through a public participation process. Letters were sent to nearby neighbors. We The applicant did not receive any comments. I did receive some questions from a nearby neighbor who were just trying to understand how the lot, particularly lot 9, was going to develop, and they didn't seem to be opposition once you received those answers. It did go to the Planning and Zoning Commission at their public hearing, and there were no comments from the public received. So with that said, this is the public hearing. I'm happy to answer questions beforehand. Also, the applicant and his representative are here if you'd like them to answer questions as well.
Thank you. Do any of the council members have questions or comments?
So I have a question. So the revegetation that we took, and that won't happen until plans are submitted for ultimately, assuming lot 9 goes first, and lot 6 steps forward. And I understood you to say lot 6 and 9 will pay for that.
Mayor and Vice Mayor, they have an agreement in place as to how they will sort of carry through that requirement. The town will not be taking on that expense or that responsibility.
So they're responsible for make sure it happens.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, we are the keepers sort of the processes and these conditions. And so, again, it's a 2-step process for each property. And so it's just sort of our role to sort of monitor that. And when we get to lot 6 and their final development, then that will be a condition upon their final approvals to have that revegetated, and presume that will go back to the agreement that they have in place.
Thank you. Do any members of the public have any questions or comments relative to this subject? Hearing none, I guess we will close the public hearing, and the next steps then and the timetable roughly will be.
Well, the next step, lot 9 is looking to submit its mountainside plans. I think in the near future, they've actually the first step, which is a pre-application meeting. What they're looking for here tonight is your decision on the resolution that's been presented in front of you.
Are you looking for a resolution or?
I'm looking for approval of the resolution that was included. In the packet. Resolution 2214. I did put up a motion. Yes, I did put up a motion.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any members of the council who would approve resolution 2022-14 as presented here?
I will be approved resolution 2022-4.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Motion has been made and seconded. Samantha, would you please poll the council, and then Mr. Geiger on the phone?
Yes, ma'am. Councilperson Lucero, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilperson Hoyer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilperson Jackson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilperson Hatcher, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Crane, how do you vote? Mayor Peterson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilperson Geiger, how do you vote?
Aye. Thank you. The resolution passes. We'll go on to item number 6, which is adjournment.
Am I up?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.